all standing on their name. And the American public go, I like him, I like Jesse Ventura, I like all these people. But the truth is, how do you actually govern when you have a whole load of disparate souls? Because human nature says that... Oh, wait, let me finish.
Piers,
human nature, Jesse, dictates that it becomes like a fascist state where you end up with the strongest taking charge. Yeah, you end up with people who are the most independent of the independents. You're basically endorsing a form of fascism, aren't you?
We're already fascist, Piers. A corporation is the same as a person. That ruling by the Supreme Court makes us fascist, because the basic definition of fascism is when corporations take over the government. They already have. They can give unlimited amount of money. They said money's free speech, and I love how it works. You know, the Democrats and Republicans have built a system based completely on bribery. You bribe the politician, you get what you want. You don't bribe them, you don't get anything. Now, in the private sector, if we do that, we go to jail. And then also, they lie to us. Yet if we lie to them, we go to jail. Well, how come the road doesn't go both ways? Why is it just one way?
Well, I guess that here's what I thought when I read your book. I thought you made a lot of very valid points. You hit a lot of those big bell moments that go off in people's heads where they go, Jesse Ventura has a good point about the lack of bipartisan politics, about the corruptive element now which exists and corrodes around a lot of public life in America, etc., etc., etc. But I come back to my point. It's all very well identifying it all as a complete basket case. How do you actually have a government that works if everyone is an independent?
Well, you can turn the Democrats and Republicans into special interest, which is what they are anyway. They can still endorse. You get endorsements from the teachers union, you get endorsement from the police union, the fire union, all these different things. Make them equal to that, to where the candidate can still be endorsed by the Republican Party. You just don't put it on the ballot. You put just the name down. Why is it so weird to think that there should only be a name there instead of Democrat or Republican? Why do they deserve the right to be on there? But
the problem surely with that is that it's all very well, this guy's an independent. Everyone quietly knows that he's what used to be called the Republican. You end up like that ridiculous scenario of the pop star Prince, who then renames himself the artist formerly known as Prince. These would be independents formerly known as Republicans and Democrats, wouldn't they?
No, not necessarily. They could still belong to the party, just don't put the party on the ballot. Like I said, turn them into political action committees. I mean, right now, you got a scenario in this country where they can receive any amount of money from corporations, from anything, and they don't even have to declare who they got the money from. I'll give you another one that you'll laugh at, Piers. I think every presidential candidate should be required to wear a NASCAR racing suit. You know why?
Go on.
You know why?
No.
Well, that way it will show who owns them. On NASCAR, they always got all the patches for who their sponsors are. Well, that way us as the voters can then look at their suit and realize who owns them.
You see, that's actually
who paid them the money, who they're going to favor, and that would make us more informed voters then.
It's actually
if they'd wear NASCAR suits.
Well, Jesse, it's a brilliant idea. The only problem is absolutely nobody would ever do it. Let's have a short break. I want to come back and ask you why, if it's the new land of promised opportunity for the independents, why you, as one of America's great independent politicians, isn't going to throw his hat back in the ring. So think about a good answer for me on that one.
Had to do with state and local government.
He wants another stimulus. He wants to hire more government workers. He says we need more firemen, more policemen, more teachers. Did he not get the message of Wisconsin? The American people did. It's time for us to cut back on government and help the American people.
Top demo crip Barack Obama there, squabbling with top Republican Mitt Romney. I rather like this Jesse Ventura, these new names. They've got a certain ring to them. When you hear the president and the Republican nominee going at it like this, given the state of the economy in America, what's your reaction?
Well, my reaction is doesn't matter. I mean, when we went from George Bush to Barack Obama, the only difference was their skin color. Everything else has been pretty much the same. It doesn't matter if you elect a Democrat or a Republican because they've both sold out to bribery to the same corporate sponsors. I mean, Barack Obama's large contributor was Goldman Sachs. Same thing on the Republican side. If you go to both their conventions, you'll see the same lobbyists paying off both sides, so they win either way. It does not matter who you elect. I laugh when I hear change you can believe in. Well, the only way that's going to happen is if you'd elect someone like me. I'll give you change you can believe in. You can rest assured there'd be change. Not what these guys talk about. Nothing's changed. Nothing ever will, as long as Democrats and Republicans are in there.
Now, I'm getting a sort of explosion on my phone here of Twitter, which I know you don't partake in, but a lot of people tweeting, to my surprise, but to your joy, a lot of, he's got a point, Jesse Ventura. They rather like the cut of all this. And if, by the way, if you're watching, at Piers Morgan, keep the tweets coming because it's getting lively with Jesse. The obvious question, I guess, is if you're so fed up with the system and you want independence to take charge, why don't you throw your hat back in the ring? Twitter suggests to me you'd have a following.
Well, I'm certain I would, because there's a lot of disgruntled, unhappy people out there just like me. And they're wising up finally, I hope. I mean, I've been pounding this for my last 4 books I've written, and it doesn't seem like anyone wants to listen. But I'll tell you this, I'm 60 years old now, and I'm not too sure if I want to tie myself up in this nonsense. I have a great life in both Minnesota and Mexico in the private sector. I love to go in the water down in Mexico. I love my life down there, and I would have to give that up. And in order to do that, I have to see something out of the American people. I want to see the American people give me a sign that it's worth it to me to come out and put my ass on the line again.
How much do you think the media have to take responsibility for some of the way that the political system has gone in America, in the sense that you now have very partisan cable networks, Fox on the right, MSNBC on the left, CNN sort of squeezed somewhere in the middle. When you see them getting more and more vociferous and partisan, does that matter? Is that good for political debate? Is it corrupting political debate? What do you think?
I think it's awful. It's terrible. You know, the news used to be to report facts and allow you to make the decision. All these shows are nothing but opinion moderators. They're hired guns to push an agenda. I think it's horrible. When our forefathers created this country, the media was supposed to be the 4th branch of government, the unwritten branch. Their job was to keep track of what the other 3 were doing and report it to the American people so the American people could judge it accordingly. What you have now is nothing but a media with opinion, and a media that, I remember the death of Anna Nicole Smith. It was the headline for a month. And yet the meat and potatoes of running our country and things of that gets cast aside. Because why? The media today is not into reporting the news, they're into creating it. And that is very, very dangerous. Because the light went on with 60 Minutes. They found out the news could make money. So the bean counters came in, and now the news is nothing but entertainment, and it's done to get ratings. Where in the old days of Walter Cronkite, the news took a loss, and they accepted that, and they made up for it in their entertainment division. Not today. Today, the news is expected to get ratings and is expected to generate money, and that is horrible.
So presumably you'll be boycotting Fox and MSNBC on your book tour, will you, Jesse?
I won't be boycotting them. They boycott me. I'd go on happily. No, that's the truth, Piers. Neither of them will have me on. Neither of them.
Really?
Will have me on. Nope. It's been that way for my last 3 books. None of the Fox nighttime people will have me on. None of the MSNBC nighttime people will have me on. Now, Fox Business will put me on. I think they're another division. I'm not sure about that, but some of the business shows at Fox will have me on. But no, Fox and MSNBC have banned me. I'm too controversial, I guess. You know who else wouldn't let me on? Don Imus. His producers and all them wanted me on, but they wanted to know what 5 songs I wanted to have played. So I told them I want Rage Against the Machine. Those are the songs I want. From Tom Morello, who Tom's one of my heroes now. He is a new Bob Dylan. He is a new Woody Guthrie. He is a man who can play guitar like heck and Rage Against the Machine. Well, you know, they banned them prior to the Iraq War and the build-up to it. None of the Clear Channel stations would play anything. They censored Rage Against the Machine, so I guess so did Don Imus.
Well, Jesse, you are outrageous and controversial. You're difficult. You can be menacing. That's exactly why I like you as a guest. So we'll take another break and we'll come back and talk to you about your conspiracy theories, of which you have many and varied, and they're always fascinating to debate with you, even if, in some cases, extremely half-baked. My special guest, Jesse Ventura, and I do mean special because there's no one quite like you, Jesse Ventura. Let's turn to your conspiracy theories in the book. As some would say, you would argue that they are factual assessments of issues, one of which is you call Iraq and Afghanistan, the wars there, the first contract wars, saying the government hired corporations to do the job of our troops, paying them a lot more than they would pay the troops. Explain what you mean by that.
Sure. Well, you've got all these contractors, former U.S. military special forces people. They realize they can get paid a whole lot more money to be a private contractor than what the military pays them. So they leave our military in droves and go to like Blackwater. I don't know what they call themselves now. They change their names around and they go over there and they're nothing but cowboys. They don't fall under any of the rules of war. They're mercenaries, and that's what we're turning into today. Our military is turned into contract killers now, contract for hire. You know, and we're using them more and more, and they're very much more expensive when you go to war to hire them than to use the regular military. And what troubles me is this, Piers. I'm 60 years old now, and I'm born post-World War II. I was born in 1951. My country has been at war for over half of my life. Over half of my life, we have been at war. No other country in the world, save Israel, can say that.
But when you look at Barack Obama, who you have little time for, it seems, but in terms of his foreign policy, isn't he doing
less time.
Right, but isn't he doing exactly?
I have less time for Mitt Romney.
Right, but isn't Barack Obama doing exactly what you would do? He's pulled the troops out of Iraq. He's pulled them out of Afghanistan in the conflict against. Well, he is pulling them out. He's pulling them out, isn't he?
Well, I guess he is, but he's leaving private contractors over there, a lot of them. He hasn't closed Gitmo yet. You know, he didn't prosecute anyone for torture. You know, we're now a country known throughout the world. We torture people, you know, and I'm ashamed of that. I mean, shouldn't we take the high road? No. Now, is Barack Obama better than George Bush? Yes, I will say that. But he still, you know, he told us he would end the wars. He told us that, and now we're ramping up to go to war with Iran.
What would you do? What would you do? What would you do with Iran?
Well, I'll give you a scenario. Here's a scenario that I would have asked at the Republican debates. I would have said, hypothetically, if you're the president, let's say Hugo Chavez of Venezuela, because of his fear of our military and the fear of the United States, if he went and bought an unmanned drone and flew it over United States airspace, and if that drone crashed in the United States, you as president, I would have asked the Republicans, what would you do? I bet you they would have declared war. And yet, we fly unmanned drones over Iran airspace. No one gave us permission to do that. The hypocrisy is unbelievable. In our country, we believe we can do anything throughout the world, and if any of them people did that back to us, we would declare war on them immediately. Am I not right? What if Hugo Chavez did that? Or say Hugo Chavez bought 1,000 acres of land by Palm Springs and moved the Venezuelan military in there. I mean, we've got our military in, 270 countries throughout the world? Well, that's an empire. You know,
yeah,
I don't care to live like that.
Jesse, isn't there a slight naivety, though, to this? Because it's very easy to say that America, which is the world's #1 military superpower and economic power, should simply sit back and not do anything in any of these dangerous countries like Iran, North Korea, Pakistan, wherever it may be. Doesn't America have to get involved?
So the U.S. The U.S. is definitely threatened by these countries. In what way?
You don't think
they can't shoot a rocket at us?
You don't think that
we have
well,
with the technology we have today.
Let me give you a for instance. If Iran began to develop nuclear weapons and built up a nuclear arsenal at the same rate, say, of North Korea, of Pakistan, would you not, as an American, feel threatened by that development, given that they are such unstable countries?
Right. Do you know why they have to do that? You notice the United States doesn't mess with anybody that's got the nuke. So we're forcing countries like Iran to get the nuke so that we won't mess with them. We don't mess with nobody that's got the nuke. We only go after, and you're talking about this buildup? I've heard that before. I heard the same thing about Iraq. I heard that a few years ago. It was all a lie, wasn't it? They had no weapons of mass destruction. They had no ties to Al-Qaeda. The American people were boldly lied to about that entire war, and then we go into that war and we discover it's all a lie, and yet nobody holds anybody accountable for it. Well, now they're using the same scenario on Iran. The same identical scenario. They're telling us, they're putting fear into us, because I believe the United States has changed today, where we must be in a perennial war, and those perennial wars will bring us down just like the Roman Empire fell.
Well, Jesse, you are at perennial war with almost everybody verbally, and long may you continue. It's a fascinating book. Democrypts and Rebloodicans, No More Gangs in Government. It's been great fun catching up with you again. You look in great shape. Come back soon.
Thank you, Piers. Thank you, I will, and thanks for having me on, because a lot of people don't have your courage.
I have ultimate courage. I have no fear when it comes to the Ventura. See you soon.
Okay, thank you.